to move across the country, battering the northeastern states overnight and moving up into Canada. At least 14 people are reported to have died. 40% of America's population are now under weather warnings. The National Weather Service says dangerously cold winds and heavy snowfalls of nearly 0.5 metre are expected as the bad weather is sweeping north. There's been widespread travel disruption with thousands of flights cancelled. Across the country, nearly 1 million households have lost power. Those power lines you can see right here, they've been knocked out in the state of Tennessee, which along with Texas, Mississippi and Louisiana was among the worst hit. But 140 million people all the way up to Canada are in the storm's path. This is Toronto at the moment. Residents in Canada's largest city urged to stay indoors. The city's Pearson Airport saw a record-breaking 46 centimetres of snowfall on Sunday. At least 23 US states declaring emergencies, including New York. The state governor warned people to stay inside. Let's bring in Bradley Blackburn. He is from Sydney.
Well, Lucy, I'm out here with the dog walkers this morning. You can see people are out and about. It is cold. There's a lot of snow, but it's a picture postcard here in Central Park. New York City hasn't seen snowfall like this in several years, so you can be sure the sledders will be out in force today too. But this is also a very serious storm, as you mentioned. By some counts, the death toll is now more than a dozen blamed on this slow-moving storm that has affected more than 180 million people over the course of the last few days. The storm went all across the eastern seaboard. It is now moving through New York City, New England. But even after it passes, Lucy, forecasters expect that below average temperatures could linger for days, and that means that the cleanup will continue too. This snow is not going to melt off. It's not going anywhere. So that creates problems for major cities like New York, Philadelphia, and others. And another big problem, Lucy, power outages. 800,000 Americans are without power as of this morning, mainly in Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana. And so getting that power restored is extremely urgent. Many of those people depend on electricity for heat.
Yeah, we're seeing some kids sledding in the snow, so it is fun for some.
President Trump is facing increased pressure from within his own party to launch a full investigation into the fatal shooting of a 37-year-old nurse, Alex Pretty, by federal agents in Minneapolis on Saturday. In just the last few minutes, we've also heard from the president, who's posted on Truth Social saying he'd had a, quote, good call with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, saying they seem to be on a similar wavelength. Well, that is what the president posted. We'll be live in Minneapolis shortly. First, this from our world correspondent, Joe Inwood.
Even the bitter cold could not quell their anger. Thousands took to the streets of Minnesota, protesting against the shooting of Alex Pretty by federal immigration agents and the raids he was objecting to when he was killed.
I think it was completely senseless. It was murder. He was not threatening. He was not attacking ICE. And I think the government is lying about what they're doing to cover up. They're killing people in the streets. It needs to stop. We need ICE out now.
When she says ICE, she's referring to Immigration Customs Enforcement. It's their officers you can see here tackling Alex Pretty to the ground. He was an A&E nurse and had a license to carry a firearm. In this footage, which we've slowed, you can see them take what appears to be a gun from his belt before any shots are fired. The federal government previously accused him of brandishing a weapon and threatening their officers. The footage makes it clear he did not have a gun in his hands.
When someone makes the choice to come into an active law enforcement scene, interfere, obstruct, delay, or assault law enforcement officers, and they bring a weapon to do that, that is a choice that individual made.
But that argument has angered some of Donald Trump's traditional allies. They worry about the suggestion that legally carrying a gun can be used to justify you being killed by law enforcement. In a statement, the National Rifle Association said responsible public voices should be awaiting a full investigation, not making generalizations and demonizing law-abiding citizens.
New batches for ESC and GATE 2026 and 2027 starting at just 1,999. Register now. Link with forget Canva, forget Figma.
Of America said the Second Amendment protects Americans' right to bear arms while protesting, a right the federal government must not infringe upon.
You brought
For the Democratic governor of Minnesota, this is about much more than just immigration raids.
This is an inflection point, America. If we cannot all agree that the smearing of an American citizen and besmirching everything they stood for and asking us not to believe what we saw, I don't know what else to tell you.
Alex Petty! Alex Petty!
Donald Trump has promised to review everything, but that will not be enough for many Minnesotans. They not only want what they see as justice for Alex Petty, but an end to the immigration raids that brought him to the streets in the first place. Joe Inwood, BBC News.
Well, Medalia Arredondo was chief of Minneapolis Police between 2017 and 2022. He gave me his view, what he's seen in the videos coming out of Minneapolis.
I will tell you that there's a lot of concern that I have from the video, the shooting, the killing of Mr. Alex Petty. What the DHS statements that initially came out within hours after his killing don't seem to comport with what I've seen in the video. And as your viewers at the BBC have seen the video frame by frame, it's certainly what I have seen. I've investigated. I've been in leading a department when we've had officer-involved deaths, and this is very concerning. The use of deadly force in Mr. Petty's situation does not seem to be certainly what would have been with our policies, our guidelines, that the federal agents, when they use their action to shoot and kill him. So there's a lot of concern. I will tell you right now, certainly not only in Minneapolis, but I've been talking to police service leadership around the country. And there's a concern that there's a crisis of credibility right now in the country with these federal agents here in the States. And that is definitely a concern as they move forward.
Let's go live to Minneapolis and to my colleague Carl Nasman. He's there at the courthouse because Minnesota's Attorney General is there trying to establish the legality or otherwise of the ICE presence in the state. So tell us more.
Yeah, even while we see everything happening on the streets from these vigils and protests, there are some very important legal battles playing out right now here in this courthouse. There's two of them. Let's start with the one that you mentioned there, Matthew. And this is the state and local authorities arguing against the Trump administration that essentially this surge in immigration officials here, some 3,000 officers believed to be on the streets of the state and the city, that they should leave the state. They're calling for this operation to be ended. They say that, look, this is essentially infringing on Minnesota's state sovereignty. They say it's a dangerous operation. They say it's endangering U.S. citizens. Of course, we've seen 2 shooting deaths of U.S. citizens, Alex Petty being the most recent one. And they say it's unconstitutional, that just given the sheer forces here, that the state is unable to hold classes at schools normally, unable to police the streets in the way that it wants. The Trump administration is in the courtroom right now. They're arguing, of course, that that's all nonsense, that they are following the law. They're enforcing the federal laws of the land when it comes to immigration, that they have the right to be here to remove undocumented immigrants and dangerous criminals from the streets of any state. We've been hearing some reporting from inside the courtroom. This is coming from CBS News, our partner here in the U.S., and they say that right now the judge in this case, which is a Biden appointee, is somewhat skeptical of the arguments being made by the lawyers on the side of Minnesota. This is really kind of unprecedented legal territory right now. This all has to do with the 10th Amendment, which recognizes, of course, states' rights and states' sovereignty versus federal authority. This gets into really sticky legal territory, but it seems right now as if the judge is a bit skeptical of the arguments being made on behalf of the state. There's a second case. This has to do with evidence in the shooting of Alex Petty. And this is also being watched closely. Yesterday, there was a ruling that said that evidence needs to be preserved, presumably so that state investigators can look at it. This will be the first time, once this court ruling comes up later today, that we hear from the Trump administration about any efforts that it's undertaken to keep that evidence safe.
Briefly, the president has had a call with the governor. Give me an idea of the mood where you are, the investigation.
Question.
One is looking forward. The role of Mr. Coleman. Is he being sent by the president to diffuse the situation that exists right now on the ground, and essentially
for the White House in terms of trying to tamp down the tensions that exist right now in Minnesota?
Well, Mr. Homan is the point person for cooperating with state and local authorities and corresponding with them, again, to achieve this level of cooperation to subdue the chaos on the streets of Minneapolis. And I would just point out that Mr. Homan is someone who has been lauded for many, many decades for his experience working in law enforcement. In fact, this is a Washington Post headline from 9 years ago, 2016. Meet the man the White House has honored for deporting illegal immigrants. And I would remind everyone in this room that it was former President Barack Hussein Obama who awarded a medal to Mr. Homan. So he's obviously very qualified. He has the full trust and faith of the president. He will continue to have these meetings in the hopes that we, ICE and local law enforcement, can cooperate and work together to have successful immigration enforcement as we've seen in almost every other state across the country.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
All right, we go back to the chaos in Minneapolis and to a Fox News alert. Multiple sources telling Fox News Bill Melugin, Border Patrol Commander Greg Bobino, and some, not all, Border Patrol agents are leaving Minneapolis as soon as tomorrow. More on that as we get it. But in the meantime, a big talking point on the left has been that all of this has never been about immigration. With states like California and Texas, illegal immigration population far above that of Minnesota. But we're digging into why this chaos is happening in Minnesota, but not other places.
Governor Walz, Mayor Fry, and all Democrat leaders should turn over all criminal illegal aliens currently incarcerated in their prisons and jails to federal authorities, along with any illegal aliens with active warrants or known criminal histories for immediate deportation. If Governor Walz and Mayor Fry implement these common sense cooperative measures that I will add have already been implemented in